Oh, hey there. Come on in. We're just about to start. Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian, a fun weekly podcast about nutrition and healthy lifestyle. I'm Rob, and together with my wife Sandra, we invite you to join us on this informative and entertaining journey through the complex world of healthy eating.
Join us each week as we strive to help you with transforming your overall health and relationship with food through up-to-date, evidence-based nutrition information. Do you live in the Northern Hemisphere? Do you avoid fish and don't drink milk? As many as a third of the Canadian population is at risk for vitamin D deficiency. Depending on your circumstances, where you live, what you eat, and your background, you may be at risk. Tune in to today's discussion all about vitamin D.
Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian. Hello, Sandra.
Hey, Rob.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. It's kind of a foggy day in October here, and I thought that it would be a good time to discuss vitamin D, also known as what?
Like the immunity vitamin? Is that what they call it?
The sunshine vitamin.
The sunshine vitamin. That's right. Yeah,
it is, though. It is. It does help our immune system along with so many other things. So it is really important to discuss because it's a key ingredient for health.
It really is. And I think it's overlooked.
Yeah, it's either overlooked or over supplemented.
Yeah, it's one or the other. I think some people just don't. They view vitamins as something that I don't really need those. I'll just take my multivitamin. I'll be fine. But from what I understand from talking to you and doing this podcast, is vitamin D is one of those that's essential, especially for older people, right? And it does so many different things and helps our body in so many different ways, and we just don't get enough of it.
Yeah.
Through other sources.
Yeah. And actually, if you take a multivitamin mineral, then you're probably getting a good amount. So that's a good point. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what is vitamin D, the importance of it, the sources, the benefits, what it is, like who is at risk, like special circumstances, depending on lifestyle and other factors. What does it do in our body? How much do we need, and why the needs vary depending on the person, and the types, and which is more effective, and pretty much most aspects about vitamin D we're going to discuss today. Yeah,
that's good. We've done an episode before. It was one of our original episodes. We talked a little bit about vitamin D, and I think it was episode 3. It was an immunity episode where we discussed a lot of different vitamins and minerals in that, but this is going to be a bit more in-depth discussion specifically about vitamin D.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just did one episode 144 on the 5 supplements to consider. So that also was one that we discussed vitamin D. We touched on.
Perfect.
Yeah. So is it a vitamin?
I think it's a vitamin.
It's actually a hormone.
What do you mean?
Yeah, it acts as a hormone in our body. And the reason it's called the sunshine vitamin is when our skin is exposed to sunlight, it converts it into a hormone in our body.
Oh, I see. And when you take a supplement, it does the same thing in your body that the sun does? Like it has the same, probably activates the same process?
Yes. Yeah. There are different types and forms of vitamin D that we're going to talk about. And like there's the dietary sources can be animal-based or plant-based.
Okay.
And the sunshine is another way to get vitamin D. But the thing is it's not really widespread in our diet. So there's a lot of people that are at risk for vitamin D deficiency. and just where you live also puts you at risk. So if you live in the Northern Hemisphere above California, even in winter, like in Canada here, even if it was a sunny day and you had your skin exposed to the sun all day long in November, you will not convert the hormone into vitamin D.
Right.
Because
the sun isn't strong enough.
That's right. The latitude.
At the latitude that we're at.
That's right.
Up here, yeah.
That's right. And research has shown that the further north people live or have, their generational...
Like their heritage, their genetic heritage, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, it actually increases the risk of vitamin D deficiency. But then there's another aspect. People with dark skin, they have a natural sunblock. And so they're not getting the vitamin D absorption from the sun as much either.
Oh, interesting. This isn't everyday kind of knowledge, is it?
That's right. Yeah. And with the groups I used to teach at our local cancer clinic with men with prostate cancer, we discussed this because a vitamin D deficiency, like a chronically, like having not enough vitamin D for a long period, puts people at risk for developing prostate cancer.
Oh, interesting.
And we know also dark-skinned African-American men who have the world's highest incidence of prostate cancer absorb less sunlight and therefore have lower levels of vitamin D than do people with fair skin. So people of all skin tones living in the north, where sun exposure and vitamin D synthesis are generally low, have higher rates of prostate cancer than those living in sunny southern climates. And also, as you mentioned with age, I think you said at the start, age, the body's ability to manufacture vitamin D diminishes. So that actually increases the risk of other problems too, because you're not absorbing as much through your skin as you age.
Right. I see. Wow. There's a lot to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people don't drink milk. I know that because talking to a lot of different clients, many people are vegetarian. So they're right there. That puts them at risk for not getting enough vitamin D in the diet. Because what are some of the sources that you know of for getting our vitamin D in our diet?
Well, fish, I think, is a good source, right? Or is it the oil, the fish oil? Yeah,
it's eating the whole fish and the oil.
Okay.
That's why people used to eat cod liver oil.
Right.
Remember when I think, we've heard of
spoonfuls of it as like grandparents generation kind of, yeah.
Exactly. A teaspoon of cod liver oil will give you about 90% of the daily requirement of vitamin D.
Wow, nasty.
So without having that, do you know what happened to people that didn't get the vitamin D and like as kids and then as they grew up?
Rickets?
Yes, you
really?
got it. Yes.
Wow, I don't know where that came from, but yeah, I must have absorbed that in some part of my brain because and rickets is like your bones aren't strong, right?
Exactly, soft bones.
Oh, crazy.
That's right, because that's kind of what vitamin D does amongst many other functions in the body. It does help our gut absorb the calcium out of our in our stomach, and then that helps with our maintain our bone density. So if we're getting enough vitamin D and calcium and other vitamins and minerals, but those are really important ones, then it reduces our risk of osteoporosis and in kids rickets.
So how, like, what time frame are we talking about? Like, do you have to have like a low level of vitamin D over like decades, or like if you go on like a low vitamin D, like you're not getting enough through your diet for say like 6 months, is that going to impact your bone density that quickly?
Good question. Well, if it's happening in kids, it's not decades.
Oh, wow. True.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is something that is suggested for newborns, even moms to give their newborns and their babies a little liquid vitamin D because we just don't get enough through our diet. So it's something to be aware of because there's so many ripple effects of low vitamin D over a long term. Mm-hmm. And rickets was discovered a long time ago. So that's why they fortified milk. And so that's another food source, milk.
Well, milk doesn't have it naturally?
No,
It only has it because
It's
been
fortified.
fortified, I see, which means they've added vitamin D to it.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Same with soy milk, and a lot of the plant-based alternatives have fortification of vitamin D.
Why did they choose milk to fortify? Because they think it's something that everyone drinks
It
every
was.
day?
It was in
yeah.
the past. Yeah.
Right. They need to fortify like Gatorade or sports drinks or something now.
Well, they fortify cereals. Like Vector. You look at
Right,
Vector, and they've
right.
got so some of the cereals are fortified. They didn't used to, but now they're kind of fortifying yogurt. Tofu has fortification, margarine. So those are some places in our diet that we do get it. But fish is like the best source in terms of the natural source, and mushrooms. So mushrooms is a different form of vitamin D. It's a vitamin D2, which is called ergocalciferol. So that's, we talked about that. We're going to talk about the forms. So calciferol is the food form. So in the fish, eggs have some. So the egg yolk has some vitamin D.
Oh, the yolk. So you have to eat the yolk then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the vitamin D3 is the sunshine and vitamin, and that's the calciferol. So that's the D3. And then the ergocalciferol is vitamin D2. And we get that from mushrooms. And then the vegetarian supplement of vitamin D, is the algae. It's a lichen algae. That's where it comes from.
And that's a D3?
That's a D2.
A D2.
Yeah. And it's not as well absorbed as the D3, which comes from fish. So the supplements are made from fish or lanolin, which is sheep's wool.
Oh, interesting. So do we need D2?
We need D. And so there's different forms of it, and our body converts it because it's a hormone.
So it's not gonna hurt, but you're saying we get better absorption from the D3.
That's right.
So typically that's going to be the sources of supplements and...
Unless it's a vegan supplement, which is D2.
Gotcha. Okay.
And remember we talked about mushrooms and how if you have mushrooms, if you put them in a sunny window or in this, like outside in the sun, it actually absorbs, like human skin, it absorbs the sunshine vitamin.
Really? I wonder, do they still have to be like growing like in the soil for that to happen? Or can you like bring a pack home from the store and stick them in your window for an afternoon and they'll...
Yeah, apparently that's how, you can increase the D2 level in the mushroom.
Wonder how you tell. It gets a little tanned, a little browner looking.
Maybe. So what does it do? What does vitamin D do in our body? You mentioned immune system.
Well, we already talked about the bone health too, right? So
Yes.
there's that. Yeah, immunity. Somehow it helps our immunity.
And with the bone health, we talked a little bit about calcium and how that like vitamin D is essential for the absorption of calcium. So if we just get calcium and not vitamin D, we won't really absorb that calcium.
Right. They work together.
Right.
Right.
And also vitamin K2 ensures that the calcium is properly utilized by guiding into the bones to basically prevent excess calcium in the arteries. So if we don't have enough vitamin K2 in our diet, then it increases the risk of calcification in our arteries and cardiovascular disease, and it affects our cardiovascular health.
Right. We did an episode on vitamin K.
With Katie Dodd, that's right.
Yeah, we talked, I remember we chatted about vitamin D in that and sort of how it was related to, well, it must have been the calcium part, right? Yeah.
Well, and the vitamin D, the bones, exactly. So that is a factor and something to consider for our bone health, especially as people age. We're not building bone. The peak bone mass is in your 30s, or, it's like, you're not building bones as you age.
Right.
You break down more than you're building. So it's really important when you're young to get enough calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin K. So eating kind of a balanced diet to get all of these elements to make sure you have a healthy skeleton for your lifetime. And we did an episode
On
bones.
Oh, like way back, the calcium episode on bone health. And yeah, it was like 17 or 18 or 19, somewhere back there.
Episode 18, calcium, cracking the bone density code.
Mm-hmm.
And that also, we talked a lot about vitamin D in that.
Oh, right.
Because
I know we've discussed it before, but we didn't have a specific episode. I'm like, oh, we've already done this one. But you're like, no, I don't think so. I know we've discussed it, but not had a whole full episode on it.
Yeah. And remember, it was a three-legged stool with bone health?
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, gosh.
Calcium?
Calcium, vitamin D, and
weight-bearing exercise.
Oh, and those are the things that are good for your bone health.
Yeah, to maintain.
I see. Okay, yeah.
Bone strength.
Right.
Yeah, but there's a few other things, obviously, like the vitamin K is one part of the puzzle too. So that's bone health. So immune system. So our immune system, with vitamin D, there's vitamin D receptors all around our body. So we have receptors in our GI tract. We have our receptors in our brain, our breast, our prostate. Well, I don't have a prostate, but you have a prostate.
I sure do. I have a really nice prostate.
You're so funny.
Well, I'm just saying. It's right up there.
Okay.
Literally.
Yeah, you can't actually see it. But anyways. And the other place we have vitamin D receptors are our nerves. All around our body, our nerves. Really? Yeah.
So we were built to receive sunshine.
We were built to receive vitamin D for sure.
Is that the only place you can receive from externally? I mean, other than eating it, but like it's not like floating around in the air. It's coming from the sun, right? Is that why we have receptors in our skin?
Yes, it converts it into a hormone.
So it was designed to receive it from the sun.
That's right.
That's so cool.
I know. And so many people protect their skin, right? Even when it is maybe in the Northern Hemisphere in summer, we put sunscreen on, or we wear clothes to protect our skin from, getting too much sun exposure, too much UV light, because that can increase the risk of cancer. So it's that balance, right, of getting enough sun to convert that hormone to vitamin D. And we know that people that go to a sunny place in the winter, like snowbirds they're called, they can increase their stores of vitamin D through the winter and come home and have that in their system for a few months. Right.
I think it makes them happy too.
Well, that's the thing. We have the receptors in our brain and also our GI tract. And, there's the brain-gut connection, but the immune system, it helps. Basically, the vitamin D enhances our germ-fighting effects of our white blood cells. So it improves the action of our white blood cells. And also, we know it reduces inflammation. So, we've talked about the anti-inflammatory diet. We talked about how important omega-3s are and fish in our diet. We did an episode about SMASH, remember?
Oh, you ask me this every other week.
Yeah. Nutrition Nuggets 56, the fish, and the acronym is SMASH for the type of fish that are really excellent fish, because they're small fish, low level of mercury. They have absorbable calcium in the bones. So they're usually canned fish with the bones in there that you squish up, and the bones are soft. So you can include that in the meat part of the fish when you eat it, and you're getting some really good amount of calcium that your body absorbs really well. And SMASH it represents the
sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon, and herring.
That's right. And herring is the top fish for the amount of vitamin D it has.
Really?
Yeah. 3 ounces gives you 276% of the daily value.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a really high level. Salmon is next on the list in terms of daily value percentage of vitamin D. It's really good. Canned 3 ounces of salmon is it's 106%.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And halibut's up there too. And then cod liver oil and mackerel and oysters and mushrooms and tuna and shrimp and egg. So those are kind of the list of the food sources of vitamin D that we can get. So if you're not eating any of those foods, which I know a lot of people don't eat fish and they might not have eggs. We actually talked to Cara Harbstreet, dietitian, Street Smart nutrition on episode 92, all about the pescatarian diet. And that is kind of like vegetarian, but include fish and eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're getting more vitamin D, which is good.
Through the fish. Yeah. Well, and eggs, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's smart. We also know that having a chronic deficiency of vitamin D puts you at risk for dementia.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, because we have those vitamin D receptors in the brain. So that is really important to protect yourself, right, from developing Alzheimer's in the future. We need to get enough vitamin D. And we do know it helps with mental health. You've heard of seasonal affective disorder and depression?
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying before about going south.
Yeah. Or even having those lamps, the sad lamps.
You always think that when people come back from Mexico in March that they're all happy because they've been sitting on the beach drinking margaritas, but really it's just all the sunshine they've received and the vitamin D.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it does help. It does more than just, the outdoor play. And I mean, that in itself is therapeutic, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So the other thing is muscle function. So it really helps with reducing risk of falls and muscle weakness. So to have enough vitamin D is important for the function and strength for muscles.
It's like directly, well, it's similar to the bone function, I guess, eh?
And it all works together, right?
Your mobility and...
Yeah. And if you're using if you're moving your body, that helps with muscle and it helps with bone health, right? Especially if it's walking or weight-bearing activity. Mm-hmm. So that's all part of it. And then that's why it's like the three-legged stool with bone health is like the calcium and making sure that you're absorbing the calcium through getting enough vitamin D so that you absorb that calcium out of the gut. And then that helps with getting it into the bones. So also cancer prevention, as I mentioned, prostate cancer, but also breast cancer and ovarian. And we know that having enough vitamin D can help prevent some types of cancers. And also with back to the immune system, autoimmune diseases.
Interesting.
Yeah. So because we have receptors throughout our body, the GI tract, the brain, the breast, the prostate, the nerves, if we're not getting enough vitamin D and we're getting into a deficiency range, that puts us at risk for developing autoimmune diseases. So can you think of any autoimmune diseases? Multiple sclerosis?
Okay. Yeah, lupus? I'm not up on these.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the autoimmune diseases are connected with having our body in a state of inflammation. And the vitamin D helps keep that inflammation down. So it's all related, right?
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting when you're talking about the cancers. Is it just those three sites primarily, or they're the most dominant ones?
Those are the ones we know about.
Because it seems like they're like, I don't know what you call them, but like they're like your sexual.
Yeah,
like
they're exactly
not sexual, but
no,
your
they're
sex
hormone related.
Sex hormone related, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What the relationship was of that?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, remember we said vitamin D is a hormone.
Oh, right.
And it's like those are hormone related cancers. So,
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, so lacking that hormone. Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's right. And if we have receptors on the breast and prostate, then that can, and our sex organs. So yeah, it also helps to regulate insulin. So that's another important factor and function that vitamin D does in our system.
Okay.
So, what happens if you don't have good regulation of insulin is your blood sugars can go too high and then you can develop diabetes. And then that's a cascade of other problems that happen in time. So if we have too high levels of blood sugar, then we can start to have neuropathy where we can't feel our fingers and toes. And that's a reflection of what's happening in our organs. So our kidney function is declining and our heart could be affected. So all these things can be a ripple effect of too high blood sugar levels and our insulin not working well enough, because the insulin is like a key that helps to take in the sugar out of the blood into the cells. So and we'll have to do a whole episode on that.
Sounds like it. Yeah. Because I'm kind of just scratching my head here going, what the heck are you talking about?
Okay. The other function that vitamin D plays in our health is respiratory health.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, it just keeps going here.
I know.
Wow.
I know. And that's the thing. Like, I think, so there are people that think more is better. And so they start taking, really high doses of vitamin D, which is probably not a good idea at all. We need a balance of different nutrients. And to get too much of one thing is not good for other things. And it's not like vitamin D it's not like a panacea where it just helps everything that's wrong with us.
Right.
But we know that a good proportion of people, especially in Canada and in the Northern Hemisphere, are at risk for vitamin D deficiency. We know that. So if people aren't taking a vitamin D supplement, or if they're not taking a multivitamin and they're not getting fish and milk products, we know that they could be at risk for having a vitamin D deficiency, which puts them at risk for all of these other conditions that I mentioned. So autoimmune disease and cancer and inflammatory conditions and bone health, like osteoporosis and dementia. So, and cardiovascular disease. Like it's incredible how many things that having enough vitamin D in our system can help prevent.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So there was a reason that people had cod liver oil before all these other things were known.
I don't know that I knew that cod liver oil was for vitamin D, though. Like,
you knew it was for rickets, though, to prevent rickets.
Yeah, I guess.
Because you mentioned rickets.
I did, and maybe that's where that came from. But I don't know. Like when you're taking fish oil now, I thought it was for like omega-3. I thought it was for like the fat. Like, do you know what I mean? Not for vitamin D.
Right.
Because like you can buy cod liver supplements still. So is that for vitamin D or for the omega-3? Well,
you're getting both. Because that's what fish offers that. That's why fish is like Mother Nature's like such an important food in our diet. Like fish is so important.
You know what's interesting? When you were labeling or naming those fish, and I don't know that this is true for all of them. Actually, I don't know if it's true for any of them, but herring is from where? Like Norwegian countries, right?
Yep.
Northern Hemisphere.
Yep.
Salmon, Northern Hemisphere, I think a lot.
Yep.
I don't know about the other ones, but it's like nature's providing it where we need it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I'm going to look into that.
Back to nature, right?
I wonder if there's anything to that theory.
Well, yeah.
I'm onto something here.
That's right. It's so important that, we kind of eat a balanced diet and we get these important nutrients for, especially if you're at risk. So that's why the requirements vary depending on where you live, your lifestyle, your health, what you're eating, your body weight. So if you are overweight or obese, then you actually have higher needs of vitamin D than someone who's not.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Your skin color, as I mentioned, that if you live in the Northern Hemisphere and you have darker skin, that increases your risk of all these different problems and having vitamin D deficiency. And your sun exposure, that affects your risk too. So there's so many things that can affect your requirements. So generally, what are our RDA or our recommended daily allowance for vitamin D?
It's like 1,000, 2,000?
Well, that's, I think...
upper limit?
No, upper limit is actually 4,000 IUs.
Okay.
And we'll talk about, so 1 microgram. So microgram is how it's measured in food. So the calciferol in food is microgram. 1 microgram equals 40 international units. And the international units is what you see in supplements.
That's IU.
IU.
Okay.
So it gets confusing, I know. So
and the RDA, the recommended daily allowance, is that what that means? That's referring to how many IUs you need.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's about 5 micrograms a day. The DRI, that's the dietary recommended intake, It used to be 5 micrograms a day, which is about 200 IUs. Remember I said 1 microgram equals 40 IUs?
40, yeah.
But now the RDAs are for adults, like the general population, anyone over 19 up to 70 need about 600 IUs. 600.
Okay.
And that's kind of what's in a multivitamin mineral. So if you do take a multivitamin mineral, like an all-purpose one, it probably has either 400 to 600 IU. Seniors, people over 70, need 800 IUs. Their requirements even go up further.
Right, because they're at the beach less.
Right.
Right.
And their skin doesn't convert it from the sun as easily. It's not working as well, the hormone conversion.
Right.
Infants, they need 400 IU.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Children, ages...
Because they're growing. They need it for like their bone sort of development, probably, right? Bone and muscle development.
Yep. And their brain and all the
stuff you
receptors
talked about.
Receptors in the body, right? So infants 400, children age 1 to 18 need 600, and that's the same as adults. So basically, after age 1 to 70, you need about 600 IUs.
Nice.
That's like just to prevent deficiency. So some people are taking 20,000 IUs.
20,000?
Yeah. So it's mega dosing, right?
Wow.
So that's the thing. Like they hear, oh my gosh, we're all going to have deficiency of vitamin D. We don't get enough sun. And so it goes, the pendulum swings way the other way. And more is not better when we're talking about supplements, and mega dosing doesn't help.
Yeah, that seems like it would shock your body somehow.
Well, it's just actually, I know someone who got their blood work done and their vitamin D level in their blood was too high. That it was out of range because it was too high. And that's someone who is taking mega doses for a while, because that's what happens. If you took a big dose and then didn't take any, it's fat soluble. It stays in your system. So as I mentioned before, in like long-term care homes with elderly people, instead of taking a pill every day, a vitamin D supplement every day, they get one once a week, and it's 10,000 IUs once a week.
Right.
So they're not getting overdosed because it's about a bit more than 1,400 a day. That's what it breaks down to.
Okay.
And it's because it's stored in the fat, it's fat soluble, then our body can use it throughout the week.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's the same theory and the reason why when snowbirds go south, they get a big dose of the sunshine vitamin, and then they're good for a couple months until summer comes.
Interesting. Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah. So yeah, it's there's a lot to it, and there's a lot to think about. Now, people that have malabsorption issues with their gut, say they have celiac disease, or they have IBS or problems with absorption, that can really affect their vitamin D status too. Because remember, vitamin D helps the gut absorb calcium. Mm-hmm. So if you have Crohn's or colitis or kidney disease or celiac disease, that can affect your bone health long term, and it can affect if you're actually absorbing enough calcium and vitamin D.
Wow.
So lots to it, eh?
Totally. Yeah, I'm still just processing it all. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So, yeah, bottom line is if you're at risk because of your lifestyle or where you live or your health or age or your amount of skin exposure or sun exposure, all of these factors can affect your absorption of vitamin D and your levels in your system. And the best way to tell is get blood work to see if you have a deficiency, especially if you haven't been supplementing with vitamin D, or you don't take a multivitamin, or if you aren't taking fish oil, or if you don't eat fish. It might be worthwhile to know what's happening with your vitamin D status.
Mm-hmm. And check your multivitamin too, because I think they're all a little bit different. They're as far as the amounts of each vitamin and mineral they put into the sort of recipe of the pill or supplement, I guess. So
you're right.
Yeah, just make sure that there is actually a decent amount.
Yeah, and you can get it in liquid form. So like for infants, it's a liquid that you put into their breast milk or their formula, and you can use that for your own supplementation too, is just the liquid and put it in water. There's also chewable, or there's caplets. Like there's all different forms of vitamin D, but it is one that if people don't like supplements, they don't take any supplements, that's one that if you're not going to take a supplement of vitamin D, take your cod liver oil like they did in our grandparents' day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like it's a must-have. That's awesome. Well, we will include all of the links that we discussed today in the show notes, so make sure you check those out. There's some really good episodes that we've done in the past that we referred to that have a lot of good information presented. So if you want more, check those out. You can also have a look at our website. It's an ever-growing, vast resource of all sorts of nutrition and health information. Great blog articles. We have a weekly newsletter you can sign up for as well. So give that a look. You can also send us your questions through email. It's mywifetherd@gmail.com, and the website address is mywifethedietitian.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well. Feel free to reach out to us there. And don't forget to rate and review. That's super helpful for us. Share with your friends too. That's also super helpful. So that's it for today. We'll be back on Wednesday with Nutrition Nuggets. So until then, have a great week, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.